Good evening. We'll just be waiting for our live community to join us. Hello.
Yeah, he's one of the regulars. She is G. Stafford Siffords.
Yeah, Sifford. All right, we already got a bunch of people who have logged on and clicked on. We're going to get started. Good evening to you, Harusa. Great to see you as always. As most of you know, my name is Rabia Finch Lewis, and this is Dr. Charles S. Finch, the great African historian, lecturer, teacher, spiritual teacher as well. And we're just here to sit at his feet and hear the different nuggets of knowledge that he has to share with us. Tonight will be on great African kings, and he wants to talk to you guys about that. He came up with that topic himself, so hopefully y'all got your notes, your pencils and your paper, and if you want to take notes or just sit back and enjoy and just kind of absorb through osmosis, and I'll give the floor over to Dr. Finch.
Thank you, Rabia. Yes, our topic tonight is great African kings. You know what? It's about, as I started thinking about it yesterday and today, I said, that's a large topic, and we've got, 35 minutes? And what you need is 2 volumes on just that subject, great African kings. Nonetheless, it's worthwhile introducing the subject, and of course, we're just going to touch on individuals that don't give you the full scope of the African kingship and the great African kings, but we will sort of, highlight several of them, all right? Without saying that this either exhausts the subjects, or we even getting, the greatest ones, all right? In fact, I'm thinking that we may have to do this in 2 sessions.
Oh, they love that. We love that.
2 sessions. Afterwards, and when we finish Great African Kings, when we do that either today or after 2 sessions, we will do Great African Queens, of course. All right. So, where do we start? Well, just where you would think we would start. Ancient Kemet. Going back a little bit more than, 4,200 years. I want to check something out first, please. I don't like to do this, but I knew
you can bring it. Just bring it to your lap, or I'll hold it for you.
All right.
Do you want to want people to know what book?
Oh yeah. This is some of you know him. Robin Walker. Okay.
When they rule.
I'm sorry. Yeah. When they rule. When we rule.
When we rule.
Yeah.
We know
and some of you already may have that book. If not, it's worthwhile to get it. And we're going to start with First Dynasty. And there's a lot of, what do you want to say, controversy about when the First Dynasty began. I think we've talked about this. To me, the First Dynasty can't possibly begin after 4200 BC, but we won't dwell on that too much. The first king in the dynastic period, one last thing. This is not when ancient Egyptian or Kemetic history begins. I think I've said that before. Mm-hmm. But this is when the dynastic period begins, all right? And so it begins with Menes, okay? He is the first one, he's the first one to rule over a united Kemet, or a united Egypt. Before he came to the throne, there were 2 Egypts, upper and lower, okay? So Egypt, as I say, that's why Egyptian history, Kemetic history if you prefer, doesn't just begin with the dynastic period. There were they were called the 2 kingdoms before that, and he unified the 2 kingdoms. In fact, ancient Egypt used to have more than one name. There was Kemet, all right, which meant the black land. Another name was Tameri, the beloved land. And the other name, one of the other names was the two kingdoms, because they sort of maintain not their separateness, but the identity of what they were, had been before the unification. Upper and Lower Egypt. Upper Egypt is in the south. Lower Egypt is in the north. Now, I'm not sure I made this point before, but I've made it in other contexts. In ancient Egyptian thinking, south was up, north was down. So you would say up south, down north. Because why so? Because that's where the ancient Egyptians came from. They came from the south. So the south was always thought of as first and up. Okay, I'm kind of not getting on my subject, but I just needed to give you some background. So Menes is the what do you want to say? He is the first one to unify the two kingdoms into Kemet. Now Egypt, boy, like I said, that's why it's probably going to take 2 sessions. Because I'm having to give you so much background. Egypt actually comes from Het-Kep-Ka-Ta, the mansion of the Ka of Ta. The Ka is a double, and the Greeks turned it into the Greek word Egypt. All right, that is where the word name Egypt comes from. But as we say, the indigenous names were either Memphis, Tameri, and also the two lands. Now, so he was the one that unified the two lands, and so therefore he is considered almost mythical, almost mythical. In fact, I guess he was a real king, but he had this kind of, what you want to call it, this mythic aura around him, almost divine aura, because he is the source and the origin of Egypt as a unified country and a unified kingdom. In the northern Nile Valley, the lower Nile Valley. Remember, up south, down north.
Is that because of the Nile, the river?
Yeah,
flows
from south to north. All right. So, and like I said, we're going to just kind of. So it's worth. We have to introduce him, so to say, Mena or Menes. After that, I'm going to go to Djoser. Why is Djoser important? Djoser is actually, if I'm not mistaken, Second Dynasty. But why there's a lot of reasons. There's one of the major reasons why he's important, because his prime minister and his architect was none other than the fabled Imhotep. All right.
We spell Djoser, D-J-O-Z-E-F-T-R.
Yeah, that's a lot of, how it is with the ancient Egyptian spellings. But the spelling that I use is D-J-O-S-E-R, Djoser, all right? So his prime minister was Imhotep. That name means he who comes in peace. Now, I call Imhotep the first Renaissance man, so to speak, in all of history. He was prime minister. He was an architect of genius, having designed and built the first great pyramid in history, the so-called Step Pyramid. He was also a philosopher, a noted philosopher was Imhotep. How could I forget? He is the first great physician in history. Mm-hmm. In fact, even Hippocrates mm-hmm. paid homage to Imhotep, mm-hmm. he who comes in peace. He is that is his reputation. That is his greatest reputation. So you understand why I call him the I'm assuming you know what I mean by a Renaissance man. A Renaissance man was the idea of a Renaissance man that he was, and it was a man mostly, the master of many different disciplines in the arts, in the science, in architecture, philosophy, etc., etc. So such a man was called, back in the day, several hundred years ago, a Renaissance man. So I'm just using that as a terminology for Imhotep would have been the prototype of the so-called Renaissance man, because he mastered all those disciplines. Anyway, he was prime minister and chief physician under Djoser, but also he was an architect of genius. The Step Pyramid of Saqqara was his creation. Now, I'm gonna jump. Let me see. I'm gonna jump to. I shouldn't have to look at my notes or look at the book, but
it's all right.
Khufu. Why is Khufu important? it is under Khufu, or at least that's at least that's what history tells us, that the Great Pyramid was built. Okay? Everybody knows about the Great Pyramid. Actually, there were 3 pyramids, as you know, in the Plateau of Giza. The Great Pyramid was the first, the biggest, the tallest, and the most extraordinary of all the pyramids. It rose to a height of 483 feet, was built of, I don't know, they said 2 million to 3 million blocks of stone, the smallest one weighing 2 tons, the largest one weighing up to 60 tons. So we could spend a lot of time on the Great Pyramid, but the point is, it was oriented, the 483 feet of solid stone. All of it was built of stone, and yet it was oriented precisely to the 4 cardinal points, north, south, east, and west, in such a way that there was the descending passage, which was on the northern face, was built in such a way that Alpha Draconis at one time was the North Pole Star, and when it rose to its height, it would actually shine its light right down that descending pyramid to the bottom, which I think there was either a pool or something down there. All right, but that's how a structure that size, built with such exquisite precision. Now we're talking about 4200 BC. The Great Pyramid was probably built no later than about somewhere between 3800 and 4000 BC. Now you're not going to find this don't look for this. Don't look for those dates, I should say, in any conventional Egyptological history. They're not. Their dates and dates I'm giving you don't coincide. Let me just warn you about that.
Their date is 2500 BC.
Something like that. Yeah. Djoser. Anyway, so Imhotep, as I say, the first figure of physician who stands out clearly from the mists of antiquity. The first, as I say, the great first. I call him universal genius. Maybe instead of Renaissance man, it's better call him universal genius. And he lived in the time of Djoser. All right. Now there was another one after that. Oh, that was Khufu. Sorry, Khufu. See, I'm getting. I better slow down. Because we're talking about Imhotep, but Imhotep did not build the Great Pyramid, the classic pyramid. And as you know, or should know, that this is the Plateau of Giza, and there were 3 pyramids built on the Plateau of Giza, each one successively smaller than the one before it. In all, there were 94 pyramids built in ancient Egypt, and they say there's about 200 built in what we today call the Sudan, in Kush. Not nearly as big as the ones we see on the Giza Plateau, but pyramids. All right. So there is that. Now, that's the in the reign of Djoser. All right, Djoser. All right. Now let me see. I hate to keep doing this, but my mind isn't. And then we say, sorry, slow down. I'm talking to myself. No, Khufu. Let me slow down, because I'm getting my things all garbled. It's Khufu. All right, Khufu. It's when the Great Pyramid was built. All right. Now, we're going to kind of jump ahead to the Middle Kingdom. Right. There came a period after. Okay, let's talk about the 6th dynasty. The most interesting thing about the 6th dynasty. There were 2 interesting things about it. One is the primary ruler, or the most important ruler, was Pepi the First. Why? Because he actually ascended the throne when he was 6, and he died when he was 96. So that was a rule or a reign of 90 years. No other ruler of any land at any time ever reigned for 90 years, but Pepi did. All right, Pepi the First. But it was either him or shortly after him that the 6th dynasty came to an end. There was what you want to call social upheaval, political upheaval, all right? And it brought what we call the Old Kingdom to a conclusion. What we've been talking about up to now, from first to the 6th dynasty, first dynasty, 6th dynasty, is the Old Kingdom, the foundation of ancient Egypt. In fact, the ancient Egyptians in after times would idealize, you might say, the Old Kingdom, because that's the one that brought Egypt, as we understand it, with the unification of two lands into existence. Now, there was a period of there's a period that seems like it was of upheaval or something. It's called the First Intermediate Period because there are no records for 100 years or 200 years, and there's an assumption that there was some kind of, what do you want to call it, disturbance, upheaval in ancient Egypt that interrupted the dynasties. Interestingly enough, though, and so this period is called the First Intermediate Period, and that's a period where there's no records. Not oddly enough, the idea that this is an intermediate period comes from later Egyptologists. The ancient Egyptians never divided their history that way. All right. Now, that brings on the so-called Middle Kingdom. We've already talked about the Old Kingdom. The Middle Kingdom was brought into being by Amenemnes. I can't even get his name right. He was a king from Mentuhotep. No, it wasn't him. Oh, I'm sorry. Amenemhat. Sorry.
That's the 12th dynasty.
12th dynasty. That's now we're into the Middle Kingdom. All right, because there's a period. But the Middle Kingdom really starts with the 11th dynasty. Mm-hmm. But we're kind of jumping over that right to the 12th dynasty because that's the most. That's when the Middle Kingdom comes to its height and glory and its power. All right, and the Pharaoh who brings the 12th dynasty in particular and brings the Middle Kingdom up to its height of power and glory was Amenemhat. That's right. I was getting it all mixed up before. He comes from the south. And he comes from South. Egypt has gone through a period of decline, disruption, disunion. And he reunifies ancient Egypt. Mm. Now, wow. When we talk about even the Old Kingdom was also reunified from the south. All right? The Middle Kingdom was reunified from the south. When you'll find out that when you get to the New Kingdom, after that second intermediate period, always unified from the south. All right? Mm-hmm. The south was always considered what you might say Egypt proper, the true Egypt, you might say, the real Egypt. And its most important, what do you want to say? Its most important rulers, its most important historical dynamics emerged from the south. Mm-hmm. And of course, that would go back as far as Cush. Because the ancient Egyptians knew that basically what they were, the ancient Egyptians, were Cushites who had moved north. All right. And the Cushites, that's another name for Ethiopia. Ethiopia was not the Ethiopia we know today. That's Abyssinia. Ethiopia was the northern third of the Sudan back in ancient times. And but the ancient Egyptians called it Cush. And that's what the people call themselves. Themselves. In fact, if you go in the Bible, they will talk about Cush.
Marcus, I got your little comment.
I'm sorry?
Nothing. Always Egypt.
What do I want to say? So Cush, which was a name for the northern Sudan, was also later became the name for Ethiopia. Ethiopia literally means sunburnt people. Sorry, Ethiopia, the land of the sunburnt, which of course, sunburnt people were definitely dark or black people. Right? So Amenemhat came from the south. They even think this often happened. Even though pharaohs were sort of born in Egypt, they often took their wives and spouses from Cush or from Nubia. All right, that happened a lot, and so there was always the pharaohs are frequently are derived at least through their maternal line from Cush or Nubia.
Tell them we not on that.
Yeah. We're not on what now?
No, someone's talking.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
jumping ahead.
Okay, no, we can't jump ahead.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I mean, that's why we're going. That's why we're going to we may have to
we're not there yet.
we may have to do it.
2 sessions. Tune in.
Yeah, that's why this may take a couple sessions, because we are kind of not giving you, what's the word, an unbroken sequence of historical narrative, because we're just talking about the great African kings. All right. Now, let me see. Let's. Mentuhotep is another one. Amenemhet. Actually, I'm sorry. Mentuhotep. I'm talking so fast. I'm getting my sequences mixed up. Mentuhotep was. He actually was 11th dynasty. There were 3 or 4 of them, and that was 11th dynasty, even before Amenemhet. All right. Now, the interesting thing about Amenemhet, and therefore the rise of, that's the time when Amun as a deity in ancient Egypt comes to the fore. All right. Before that, from about 4200 BC, it was Ptah and Osiris out of Memphis. All right, out of Memphis. But Amenemhet is Thebes, so-called Thebes or Waset, in the southern part of Egypt or Upper Egypt, and this is the time when Amun, which later became Amun-Ra, rises to the fore in the ancient Egyptian pantheon. Because why did that happen? Why did that happen? Because around 2200 BC,
the ram, Aries.
It's the age of Aries of the ram. You see, the ancient Egyptians put all this together. Before that, it was the age of Taurus, the bull, and the deity related to Taurus the bull was Ptah. Okay, that's why he was the ascendant at that time. But by 2200 BC or thereabouts, the
zodiac.
The zodiac had changed. Before it had been Taurus rising on the eastern horizon, right before dawn, inaugurating the bull, I should say, Taurus, inaugurating the age of Taurus, which lasted almost 2200 years. But then, as a result of that shift or that change that is constant, then Aries started to rise right before dawn at the eastern equinox. The spring equinox. Boy, I'm talking too fast because my words aren't quite, together. Sorry about that. So the spring equinox, Aries starts to rise right before dawn, replacing Taurus. So this is the beginning of the age of Aries, who is the ram. Amun, who is the ram. Mm-hmm. So ram, lamb, and shepherds.
Amen. All that.
Yeah.
Amen.
Amen. No. That's. I don't have time to talk about amen
don't talk about it.
Because amen actually comes from that name.
I'm just,
Amen, therefore rises to the forefront of the pantheon, as does the ram, which is his symbol. Ram, lamb, and shepherd symbolism. And very shortly thereafter, or within that same period, well, not right at that time, but afterwards, after Abraham, the people who became known as the children of Israel start to make their appearance in history. And you will notice that ram, lamb, and shepherd symbolism is just abounds within their symbolism, especially the idea of the shepherd. Okay? And even if you look at the Old Testament, which comes from the Torah, that whole dynamic, that whole drama between Cain and Abel, and Yahweh, and they're making they're making offerings to Yahweh. Cain, who is a farmer, makes an offering of grain. Abel, who is a shepherd, makes an offering of a lamb. And this is where the trouble starts, Yahweh was much more pleased with the lamb offering than he was with the grain offering. Now, of course, that leads to a conflict between Cain and Abel, who actually were twins, and Cain, out of anger and I guess jealousy, sibling jealousy, kills him. That's in the Old Testament, all right? But the reason why the lamb offering is accepted because this is the age of the ram that has begun, and it will last for another 2,100, almost 2,200 years. And so the people, the children in ancient Egypt, the lamb and ram and shepherd symbolism is paramount. Also through the person of Amun. All right, but Ra, who had been the sun god, still had a kind of a pride of place, so they just fused the two as Amun Ra. Okay, but it is Amun, lamb, ram, and shepherd symbolism, and that dominates the mythical thinking of the people who became the children of Israel, because lamb, ram, and shepherd symbolism abound throughout the Old Testament. As I say, Abel makes the ram sacrifice, and that's the one that's accepted instead of the grain sacrifice by Cain. All right. So,
where are we now?
Well, yeah, we're
kind of Amun.
Yeah, we're still on
the 12th dynasty.
We're still on Amun and the 12th
elevated.
dynasty. Oh, I know what I wanted to say. That's simply this. Just go back to your Old Testament. There were a people, 70 with Jacob, who later became Israel. What happened to them? They were starving, illiterate shepherds. And where did they go in order to save themselves? Egypt. Yeah, read your Old Testament. And those people and their descendants lived there for the next 430 years. So the point that I make, how could they not be maximally impacted by the spiritual, cultural, religious system that was ancient Egypt? So if you look at the Old Testament carefully, all of the major lines of exposition, religious, symbolic, mythical, etc., are traceable to ancient Egypt. After all, where was Moses born?
Oh, Egypt.
His name was Musa, which means he was drawn from the water. Moses was an Egyptian. In fact, he was the Egyptian royal family who took up the part of another pharaoh, another extraordinary pharaoh of Akhenaten. Akhenaten. What was so unusual about Akhenaten? Now, ancient Africans always thought in terms of there being a one deity from which everything else, including all the other deities, a multiplicity of deities, came. But Akhenaten was insistent that there was only one deity that could be worshipped, and there were no other gods before him, and that was Atum. All right, and of course this flew right in the face of ancient Egyptian belief, practice, everything. All right, and he had to go against the grain, not only of the priesthoods, but also of all of ancient Egypt. That's the reason why he only reigned 17 years. They don't know what happened to him, but after 17 years, he was just gone. Where? Who knows? Was he quietly put to death? That's the assumption. But the point is, he did leave behind some what we call disciples. Akhenaten did. One apparently was this Egyptian priest whose name was at the time Osarseph. What does Osarseph mean? Son of Osiris. Osiris, Sif is son. So Osarseph was son of Osiris, and he changed him. He was influenced, in fact, more or less converted to the system that had been put in place by Akhenaten. Because, as I say, he had adherents and disciples, etc., who, accepted that belief and kept it alive. But they started to be persecuted, all right? So Moses, and also this belief started taking root among the people of the Delta. They weren't, by the way, they weren't all Hebrews. It was a mixed multitude in the Delta. And they were troublesome, or at least the ancient Egyptians thought they were troublesome. And so by the time of Ramesses, it was time for them to go. People think The Old Testament gives you the idea that Ramesses wanted to hold on to them because they were slaves, etc. He didn't want to let them go. Ancient Egyptians were happy to see them go.
Don't say that.
They were happy to see them go. They were a troublesome.
Don't say that.
They were a troublesome element.
That's how they. You're saying that's how they thought.
The ancient Egyptians, the people of the ancient Egyptians, that these people in the Delta, among who the core people were the children of Israel, Moses took up their part, you might say, and led them out into Palestine for that 40-year sojourn, in which, in the process, they became a different people. But they didn't all start out as Hebrews or children of Israel, by the way. There was a mixed multitude. And no, the ancient Egyptians, adios.
Okay. We got to
already
wind it.
We hadn't even got started.
I had to address some comments or questions. One with Gaston, right? Is that his name, Gaston?
Gaston,
or Gaston. He made a correction that I think is right. He said that Mentuhotep from the 11th dynasty, he actually reunited Egypt.
Yes, he's right. He's right. He's right.
Before Amenemhat.
Yeah, he that was a correct. That is a correction. I appreciate that because that is true.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Gets a little confused.
So, by the way, audience, all those of you out there in the audience, when we have these sessions, if you have corrections to anything I'm saying, don't be shy. Go ahead and put it up there so we can see it.
If you don't read through the comments, Dad, because they're not shy at all. Okay, so we got a little sidetracked. We jumped kind of from the 12th dynasty, but we will go back and revisit the 17th
all
and 18th
the way up to the
dynasty.
18th. Yes.
Somebody wanted to. Oh, I know who it was. Marcus Howard. I will shout you out. Was what about Mansa Musa? Okay.
Oh, we haven't gotten there yet.
We're doing chronologically.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Please have some patience.
I'm not going to. I'm not going to forget Mansa Musa. Don't worry about it.
We love Mansa Musa here.
Don't worry about Mansa Musa.
We've talked about him many times.
We will get to Mansa Musa.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this right now, and then I'll repeat it. Only one fact not that you need to know, but it's interesting. He is said to be the richest man in history, barring none.
Yeah. So anyway, we've talked about him many times. So he said, well, why do we always talk about ancient Egypt? Well, you probably haven't tuned into all the sessions because we talked about him several times before. But, so I just had to put that in since, you put it in all caps and everything.
We will get to Mansa Musa.
Yes, we're going to get to that.
As well as Sonny Ali and
if you're enjoying this and if you want to sit through it. If you don't want to sit through it, then come back in 2 or 3 sessions. Okay. And that'll be like a month away. What else? Although someone else mentioned that they thought that Amun meant something about the hidden one, and that's
one of the things.
Well.
It has several meanings. It has several meanings. That, the hidden one, but it's also Amun as a word means be it so, make it, establish it, make it so, kind of like the word amen means. Mm-hmm. So be it. That comes right from the ancient Egyptian definition of the word Amun. But yes, Amun as a deity was the hidden one in the West. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he was definitely, yes, that is true. Because these deities had multiple manifestations, shall we say, or multiple meanings, multiple definitions. And Amun also meant make it so, be it so.
Okay. So, hey, with these sessions, they don't always go all the way, they don't always stay on target, and that's okay. We're gonna, next time we come back, we're gonna hit on the 17th, because there's a very important kings from the 17th dynasty.
And the 18th.
The 18th dynasty, probably the 19th, and I know we're gonna hit on the 25th dynasty.
25th, yes.
Because we can't cover everyone, and then we'll also get to some Ethiopian and
we will definitely
Ghanaian, Mali, and the kings of Mali and Ghana and
Songhai, yes,
and Songhai and all of that.
Askia Muhammad, Sonny Ali's, Askia Muhammad, and Mansa Musa. Absolutely.
And somebody probably might want you to talk about Shaka Zulu too.
Oh, I don't know. We could talk about.
You could say what little you know.
I don't know if we're gonna. No, it's not that I don't. It's not that there's little I know. I just don't know if we're gonna get to Shaka Zulu in 2 sessions. So
no, this is probably gonna be 3, and that's okay because this is just you talking, if people want to hear about it, then you can talk about it. So we'll talk about Shaka Zulu if you guys want to talk about him too. So thank you so much for tuning in again. Y'all are a lively little bunch, and we appreciate that. I hope you guys are learning some things along the way. I know it can be a little confusing, but if you have questions, that's why I'm here, to try to help my dad clarify anything or correct anything. And we're going to continue on with the kings, talking about the pharaohs, obviously, but just, to the Africans, they're just kings. We're going to keep talking about the kings, and then eventually we're going to get to the queens again.
Queens.
So
the thing is, remember now, people saying about the
congratulations on your economic influencer award.
Oh yeah, who was that who said that? Yeah.
Oh gosh, I missed it.
Okay, yeah, that happened last Saturday night.
Yes.
No,
and you did well speaking too.
Yeah, it was 5 minutes of that.
No, Dad, that was more like 10, 15 minutes.
But anyway, oh boy, now I forgot what I wanted to say.
Oh, yeah, I forgot too what we were saying. But because the queens, I was saying the queen. We're gonna get to the queens.
We'll get to we will get to the queen. Yeah, I know what I wanted to say. They say, why do we focus on Egypt? There's no other place to focus.
You have to start there.
You always got to start there, every time, all the time. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're tired of listening to about Egypt, then don't tune in. Don't tune in, because you're always going to hear about Egypt from me.
From him.
Yeah, all right. So, but the thing is about the dynasties. There were 30 dynasties, and there were more than 300 pharaohs, 300 rulers over the 4,000-year period of ancient Egypt. And one last thing on that. That's not when ancient Egyptian history starts. That's when the unification of the dynasties start, 4200 BC. Mm-hmm. And by the way, there's no Egyptological book who will give you that date. They're going to tell you it's 3200 BC.
Or 31.
31.
They said 31.
Yeah. But anyway, there were 30 dynasties and 300 pharaohs, 300 plus pharaohs.
Okay. Thank you guys again. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you next time.
Next time.